I guess initially I should tell you why I'm qualified to be a life coach. Because as that lady said, sorry, what was your name? Sam said, it's about having experience in life. And I've got quite a unique story. I was born here in Leicester on the Esmondsel estate, one of 8, and we had a tin bath and a toilet outside with newspaper for the toilet. My parents were both alcoholics, fabulous people. My mum was amazing, but they were alcoholics. I went a bit crazy and off the rails. I started having sex when I was 11, which is very young, but I was very grown up, or thought I was very grown up in my head. I had an affair with my teacher, which was completely inappropriate. And by the time I was 16, I was thinking I can't live on a council estate with no money. I just can't do it. It's just not me. I'm not doing it. What am I going to do? And I had no O-levels, no parents, and not very much. And I started off at the very bottom, and within 3 years, I was managing director of the whole company, looking after 700 people. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. I did that with nothing. And then I started thinking, well, if I can do that in a company without anything, why don't I do that for myself? Why am I making this person all this money when I could be making it for myself? In the bridesmaid's gown to Vegas, got married by a lookalike Elvis, and 3 days later woke up and thought, oh dear, what have I done? Because obviously I didn't know very much about him. He was good looking, so that was a bonus. But again, I didn't know anything about him, but I thought, but this time I've got the money, I've got a credit card, I'll just dress him up, I'll fit him into my life, and it'll be great, I'll be happy. 3 months later, in 2000, the stock market crashed, and I lost about £7.5 million in 11 days. And as it was dropping, like at the moment, I was buying. And the bank was saying, buy more, buy more. And I was saying, yeah, buy more, buy more. But it didn't recover because, as what's happening at the moment, it's all virtual money. So for 2 weeks before I came back to the UK in 2005, I was dying homeless, living in a homeless shelter, broke, penniless, and a completely different person, which was quite odd, as you can imagine. But those 2 weeks I was in the shelter, I actually got to see people who'd got way more problems than me. And here was I had everything, and whinging about the fact now it's all over, and it just was very enlightening. Christmas. We say to our children, do not, under any circumstances, speak to strangers. Do not take gifts from them, and do not tell them your secrets. Yet once a year, we pop them along to a strange man in an outfit who they recognise, so therefore they tell him what he wants to know, plonk him on the knee. They then go to school, and some bully sitting next to them then tells them, well, your dad's Father Christmas. He's not a real person. That child has been lied to. So how can you go home then to your parents and say, well, you lied to me. He doesn't exist, and I've just been bullied because of it. So my point is, what we've got is a template, okay? It's a life template. You're born, you get a name, you have 2 parents, 1 parent, whatever you've got, brothers and sisters, you go to school, you get your education. If you're a boy, you find a girl, get married, and you work to death for the rest of your life. Or if you're a woman, you have babies and you work to death for the rest of your life. And then you drop dead, you go in a coffin, and that's the end of it. So that's the template. That everybody, Christmas, Easter, Valentine's Day, all the little bits that we do on the template, and every single person is supposed to fit into that template. But if we all have our own DNA and we're all unique, how can we fit into the template? We can't, can we? And be happy. So we've been lied to by our parents, and our parents have been lied to by their parents. And it's not because of anything malice or terrible, it's just because that's all we know. Most women say to me in their 30s, that they've got the dress in the wardrobe, they've got the shoes, they've got the venue, they've got the hat, the mother's got the dress, but they don't have the boyfriend or the potential husband. So what people are doing are looking outward for a story that they can then, like I did, go and find somebody, fit it into the story. And when we're young, we're told about the fairy tale, but we all know the fairy tale ends at the wedding, doesn't it? It's never, you never hear after, and they run off and lived happy ever after, which as a small child, you know, if you're a girl and that's what you think, this prince is going to come along on this great big horse and he's going to sweep you up, he's going to take you to your perfect venue, and you're going to live happily ever after. That's complete and utter rubbish. It's the worst story I've ever heard in my life to tell young girls, because it's completely unrealistic and it doesn't happen, does it? I think if young girls were taught less about the fairy tale and more about the reality of the marriage from their mothers, instead of the mothers going to the dress shop with them and saying, oh, get that one, it's fabulous. Oh, yes, I'll go with the carriage. Instead of saying, are you sure you're doing the right thing? I mean, have you spent enough time with him? What do you like about him? You know, like, and telling their stories of how hard it is. They get their children when they're teenagers and they're a bit noisy and a bit rowdy and a bit off the rails to focus on a career that potentially this person doesn't want to do. You know, like, just get your degree and then you'll be fine. But the person may want to be a violinist and maybe a genius violinist. So by living in a template, we don't allow ourselves to be free and find out what we're really actually very good at. So we end up becoming extremely miserable. A lot of people who are overweight think, you know, I've heard them say it, you know, it's not my fault. I can't do anything about it. It's, you know, it's hereditary. I don't eat anything. I don't know how I've got like this. I don't eat a thing. Well, you do eat, but you just don't recognise you eat, because subliminally our behaviour, the things that we do without thinking, actually we are so programmed to lie to ourselves about it that we can convince ourselves we haven't eaten a thing all day, when actually we've eaten 17 packets of biscuits. But the truth is, if any one person in here won the lottery today, tomorrow your life would be so miserable, and I'll tell you why. Because you would be almost forced to fly first class, and I don't know if anybody's flown first class, but it's not a very good experience. You have to be very snooty, you don't get the right type of food, you know, it's a very cold, uncomfortable experience. And then you'd have to go to an island where, you know, really wealthy people live, and, you know, they're not particularly happy people. So you'd end up probably wanting to sit in the back, have a beer, play darts, or talk to the people in the back, have fun, do whatever. So money isn't the object or the commodity to make you happy. It's just not. So tonight, if you go away with nothing else, recognise money cannot buy you a life. It can only buy you stuff to go into your life, so a life that's already established. And if you're buying a sofa and paying for it 4 years later because the Joneses have just bought one, you know, don't give a damn about the Joneses, because the Joneses are probably hocked up to the eyeballs. The whole purpose of working on yourself is to have the inner strength and the willpower to do something. That's where people fail. They've got it in their head, I'm going to lose weight today, I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it. Go on a diet, it works for a bit, then it stops working, and then they're back to square one, even more miserable than they were when they first started. People who are bored with their jobs, you know, they think, yes, I'm going to get a new job, they go for an interview, the person interviewing them knocks them to bits, they go home in a corner and can't apply for another job. People who have shopping addiction, who just can't stop shopping for things that they never wear, that doesn't give them the life they desire, but they can't stop doing it. And it's because everybody's looking outward for the answer to happiness. As I said to you a little while ago, I'm nearly 60, I've had no surgery. I don't care what anybody thinks about the way I look. I don't care about what anybody thinks about the way I dress. I don't care what anybody thinks about me. I am unique, I have my own DNA, and I am very comfortable with myself now. That feeling when you're in control of your own body and your own thought process and your own energy, complete miracles happen. And that's not voodoo, and it's not something that's spirit, you know, like about God, or it's what you can do as a human being. But that's your story.
Yeah.
But that's not a good story, is it? So we don't want that story.
No, I'd like to change it.
Right. So the way you change it is by what you're saying. So that's your story now. That person, you don't want to know anymore, do you?
No.
Is there anything you want to keep about that person?
No, not anymore, I don't think.
So there's nothing you want to keep about the old person. So therefore you have to reinvent yourself. So you've got to kill that person. Just kill it. Say to yourself, it doesn't exist anymore, it's been a complete failure. And I think what you'll find is you'll start recognising that it hasn't been a complete waste of time, and that you're not a failure, and that you've probably actually done some really amazing things. And then from those things, you build your new. So you remove the things that you don't like, and the things that you think have made you this terrible person, and then you take the things that you have done that are good, and you work on them. Or there's an even more severe route, which is a blank piece of paper. And to do that, you've got to work on yourself a little bit, and Venus Cow tells you how to do that, till you get to a place where you have a blank piece of paper. And then on that blank piece of paper, you can be whoever you want to be. If I put you on a flight now to Venice, okay, put you on a flight to Venice, and I said, your name's Sophia, and you're a journalist, a writer, and you're a vegetarian, and you're celibate. And you go sit on the plane, and when somebody comes to sit next to you and they say, hi, my name's John or whatever, and you say, hi, I'm Sophia, I'm a journalist, I'm this, that and other, that immediately opens up a whole new life for you. And you know, you then come, when you get to Venice or whatever, you can be whatever you want to be. But it's a way of practicing your confidence level. Right, so you need to take 1 hour a day on yourself, and you need to completely work on yourself, you know, like from your inside out. And you've got to be really truthful with yourself. You've got to, you know, not say, I don't like myself. You've got to ask yourself, why don't you like yourself? And you'll probably find that when you start talking to yourself and, you know, like being honest with yourself, you'll start confessing. And when you start confessing, that's the whole point of having a journal on Venus Cow, when you start actually confessing to yourself. And you start to see why you feel the way you feel. Diet's also another thing. You know, if you eat Brazil nuts and avocado and drink plenty of water, you know, those things have masses of vitamins in them, masses of energy. Avocados, anybody in here who wants the secret to eternal youth, it's avocado. I think if you think about this template and start developing your own template, like the blank piece of paper, what do you want on it? What do you want on that piece of paper? What do you want? And go for it. And it doesn't matter whether you're 50, 20, 40, whatever age you are. Get your template, get your blank piece of paper, work out what you want and go for it. Just doing some, you know, like brainstorming. And she said, you know, Venus is beautiful woman and cow is very sacred. So it's kind of a part of sacred cow. Yeah, so it's meant to be beautiful woman.